All right, what is up, YouTube? So we just got a new ban list, and I kind of want to give my early thoughts on what is going to be the best deck of the format. We saw no hits to Dragon Link. We saw True King of all Calamities being banned, so Virtual Worlds got a significant hit. We had Zexal being hit, so no like crazy utopic decks coming out when Lightning Vortex drops. We have, Numeron decks are just obviously dead at this point unless you want to go for the OTK route. We have Union Carrier hit, Benton hit, so Drytron is kind of looking really, really bad. And they were already like dropping out of the format. So I'll kind of go over the best decks first, or like the decks that got hit first, and then go on the more roguish strategy. So first off, let's go with Virtual World. I think Virtual World is tier 3. They still have Chuche, they still have Shen, they have all their extenders, they pretty much have everything in their main deck. They just lost True King of all Calamities, but there's replacements out there. There's more negates out there that they can make. They can make Ultimaya into Crystal Wing, they can make, Shen, they can make a lot of Gossip Shadow. Like, there's a lot of negates out there. There's also the new rank 9 that came out in Blazing Vortex. So Virtual Worlds is not dead. Don't sleep on this deck. This deck will probably climb up to tier 2, maybe even tier 1 after the format kind of shapes up. But I think Virtual World is definitely tier 3 right now. But I think as people kind of learn how to play this deck, it's probably going to go back to tier 2 and probably back to tier 1 when the format kind of settles down and people solve the format. Another deck that I want to talk about is Dragon Link. Dragon Link is tier 1. Like, they did not hit Dragon Links at all. They did not hit dragons at all. This deck is still very powerful. It topped the LCS. It was the winning deck list in the LCS 3v3. This deck still does a lot of things. It plays through Nibiru. It plays through a lot of hand traps. Droll doesn't really stop this deck that much. You still have Erratic Seal, LP, like Romulus, like all of these extenders slash starters slash end boards. Like, it's like Dragon Link is just, I don't know, tier 1. Like, if you've never seen Dragon Link before, watch like DD Grinder or something like that. This deck just plays through a lot, and I'm surprised this deck didn't get hit on the ban list, seeing that Drytron's like saw a hit, Virtual World saw a hit, and this is like the next best deck, and it just didn't receive any hits. So I'm expecting Dragon Link to be like the best deck, and there was no new cards coming out to kind of like shape the format. So like the lower decks are just going to be even more better in this format. The next deck I want to talk about, what's another deck? Drytron. I'm gonna say Drytron's a rogue deck. Like, everybody's like, I know this is probably gonna be like Pepe laugh, he didn't know type of thing. When like, I guess when Lightning Overdrive comes out, maybe the deck comes from tier like rogue tier to like tier 2, maybe tier 3, or like maybe even, I don't see it tier 1 without Diviner of Herald. They probably are dropping Diviner of Herald and Lightning Overdrive. Probably that's why they hit Union Carrier and what is the other card? Benton. So Drytron is not looking good right now. Maybe with Megaliths they could be really good, but I just don't really see it. Next up, ABCs. Man. I think this deck, their one card combo is gone. I kind of want to put ABCs in the trash tier right now, but nah, I think they're rogue. There's probably more combos you can make with this deck. I'm just not sure. I'm not an ABC expert, but them losing Union Carrier is like GG no re, right? I'm pretty sure there's some combo you can make with ABCs. Probably not a 1-card combo now, but maybe a 2-card combo. But then again, like, someone's gonna find out something with ABC. ABCs has always come in and out of formats, just like something like BA. What's another deck? Eldlich didn't receive any hits. I'm gonna say Eldlich is like tier 1. This deck is still very solid. It has everything in its like utility. There's not really anything else to say. Like, Eldlich is just, it's been very solid for the past year, and I don't see it dropping out of the format because of anything coming out in the future. It didn't receive any hits. Like, Eldlich just looks very solid, as well as something like Dragon Link. Another deck that kind of fell off last format, but I think is going to be very good this format. I think Dinosaurs is going to be tier, I want to put this in tier 2, but I feel like it's the ultimate counter to Dragon Link. which is why this deck is going to go to tier 1. I'm just going to put it in tier 1 just to be safe. If it drops to tier 2, or maybe not even good in this format because of Lancier or something like that, oh well. But I think Dinosaur is just really good. Mist is still at 3. The deck still has, you know, Fossil Dig, Oviraptor, Lost World, Baby Sarosaurus. They just still have everything at their utility. And this deck could go second against a lot of different decks because we don't have True King of all Calamities or Zexal in the format. So all these OTK decks or going second decks are just way better right now. So I think Dinosaur is definitely the call for it to be tier 1. What's next? Shaddolls I think is tier 2. Like, Shaddoll is always going to kind of be in the format just because of Winda being very powerful. I don't see them going the control route because VFD is not in the format, but they can also stay in their control aspect. But I do feel like they're going to go back to like the Shaddoll Invoke Dogmatica, you know, deck, where you're just like focusing on 1-card combos as well as the Shaddoll engine to, you know, turbo out Winda. So I think this deck is going to be a solid tier 2. Again, I think Virtual World could kind of climb to tier 2, maybe even tier 1 after some format development. Infernoble, another deck that I feel like is going to rise because we're going to need another combo deck to come into format. A lot of people are just going to be testing these combo decks that were really good in the past, but just got outclassed by something like Virtual World making VFD. So Infernoble, I think, is definitely a tier 2 deck. It just depends on how confident these Infernoble players are with this deck and their combos post Banlist. So it's really interesting to see what this deck will do, as well as Dragon Link, you know, Eldlich, all these top decks in the format, especially Drytron, because I feel like Drytron's received the biggest hits. Because at least with Virtual Worlds, they didn't receive any main deck hits. Like Drytron, they lost Ben 10, they lost Natasha pretty much, and they lost Union Carrier, and they don't have the Drytron XYZ yet. So it's kind of interesting to see if Drytrons are still really good in this format. Another deck that's really good is Zoodiac. Zoodiac, I feel like Zoodiac might be like tier 1. If we're talking about Zoodiac Eldlich, I think Zoodiac Eldlich is going to be like a tier 1 deck. Zoodiac definitely very solid right now, just because of Zeus. Like, Zeus is such a powerful card. Going second, so like I just don't see like Zoodiacs being bad in this format. We still have like D-Shifter. Like, this deck still can run like the Eldritch engine, as I said before. They just have like every Zoodiac is just 1-card Zeus. What can I say? Like, there's nothing else to say but Zeus. Zeus is such a powerful card that like it makes like Zoodiac tier 1, especially with True King of all Calamities banned. What's another deck? Guru. Guru lost Numeron, but they still have Dragoon, so I think they're like a tier 3 deck. The representation is not going to be high in this deck, so I don't see it being like tier 2 or tier 1. But a lot of the, you know, rogue players are going to be playing something like Guru, so the deck is going to see some representation, and it's going to be in the format because Dragoon Guru is just like a really solid deck. But I still think that like it's like kind of good in this spot. I don't think it's like really good, but I don't think it's bad either. So Guru definitely a very solid deck. Also, guys, another deck that's kind of similar to Guru, I think it's going to be tier 3. Like, these control decks, a lot of people like to say like, oh, this control deck is like tier 1 right now because of the new ban list. But like, these control decks never become the best deck of the format, just because their ceiling is not really that high. They don't really have they have a really good grind game, but their output is just not that good. The only control deck that I think is going to be really good in this format is like Shaddoll and, you know, Eldlich, like pretty much. The next deck, let's talk about Sky Strikers. Why not? I think Sky Strikers is going to be a rogue deck. I think Sky Strikers is not that good. It still loses out to Dragoon, which I think is going to be very good in the format. Just don't know what decks are going to be playing Dragoon. Maybe Virtual Worlds might play Dragoon as well. But Sky Strikers doesn't really have much of a win condition, but you still have Mystic Mine at 3. You still have Hayate at 3. Widowmaker went to 3 like 2 ban lists ago. Like, this deck still is decent, but it's not that good at the deck. It's just like Mystic Mine the deck pretty much, as we didn't see any hits to Mystic Mine. Another deck that I think is going to be really good, let's talk about Adamantipator. I think Adamantipator is going to be maybe tier 2. I'd say tier 3 because the deck is not that good. But it depends on how people evolve with their Adamantipator list. But the Adamantipator Prank Kids list, I don't think is that good because it's kind of bricky. So I won't say it's bricky, but like if you get hand trapped, the deck is just like the boards that you make with this deck is not really that good. It just loses out to something like droplets or Dark Ruler no more anyway. So, and we're gonna see a rise of those cards in the format as well as something like Super Poly. So looking at like a going first deck is just not that good unless you can just put out a negate without what is the term I'm looking for, like a trap negate, or like how Tidying is a card in Dragon Link, or you have a trap card like Schism, or if you're going second, like you don't really care about going first. Virtual Roads have Chuche. Like Adamantipator only have their monsters, and if their monsters are like outed or they get negated by something like Dark Ruler, the deck is just not that good. Another deck, Prank Kids, I think is tier 3. After playing this deck a lot, I feel like this deck is kind of overrated, underrated somewhat. I feel like this deck, it really gets stopped like by one hand trap, and even if you can play after that, the deck is only like, it only has one disruption, and that is Battle Butler. Like the deck is not too crazy, although it does have a 1-card combo. And if you play a lot of hand traps, if you get hand trapped once, like yeah, you might have hand traps in your hand, but you don't have like a play to do. And if you can't play, you can't win. That's the name of the game. So let's go in order now, because there's not anything but rogue decks right here. BA is always going to be in the format. I think BA is like tier 3 maybe. BA is always going to be a solid deck in every single format. It just doesn't matter. Someone's going to find out a way to make Beatrice Pass work, and we saw that in last format with the LCS. I think somebody top 8 with something like BA. I don't know how they do it, but BA is always going to be a very solid deck. Madolche, it's going to be rogue. I don't see like everybody going to Madolches as like a crazy deck. I feel like the deck still loses to like a hand trap, maybe 2 hand traps. It's going to be enough to like stop this deck. And there's nothing too crazy about this deck. Yeah, you can go second maybe. But overall, I don't think Madolche is going to be like tier 2 or tier 1. At most, this deck is going to be tier 3. But I'll put it in the rogue category because the deck is just, it's not that crazy. Zephyr, I think, is tier 3. You still have Oracle, you have Providence. Like this deck is very, very consistent. It still has Zephyr. It lost Numeron, but a lot of these control decks did lose Numeron. But the deck still has like a counter trap. It still has a lot of consistency, as I said before. And the deck still has like Zephyr Path, which is just like a really solid floodgate. So I can definitely see Zephyr on the rise a little bit. But again, like a lot of these control decks are gonna lack the representation to be like tier 2 or tier 1, like a lot of these other decks that are very popular from previous formats. Buster Blader did get Dragon Buster to, I guess, 3. I think this deck is going to be a very good counter matchup. If Dragon Link is the best deck, then a lot of people are going to be playing the Buster combo, Prologue plus the Synchro Dragon Buster Blader combo to like shut down Dragon Links, because we saw this in the format before last format, to where everybody was playing like Trap, Buster Blader decks, and they were playing like Eldlich and stuff like that. So I definitely think this is going to be a tier 2 deck if Dragon Link is going to be in the format. It also stops a lot of these other like combo decks that, except like maybe Dinosaurs, because Miscellaneousaurus I think doesn't care about it. I'm not sure, but I think because of Dragon Link being tier 1, the Dragon Buster deck is going to be a lot better compared to like last format with VFD. Like you don't really care about like this Dragon Buster combo if you have VFD. Thunder Dragons is going to be a rogue deck. Like I don't see this deck doing that well. It didn't get Colossus off the ban list, so who really cares? Invoke Dogmatica, I'm going to put this in a tier 3. Last time I put this in tier 1, but I failed to realize that even though this deck has a lot of 1-card combos, it does have a lot of bricks, or it just like doesn't draw well, and it gets stopped like by 1 hand trap. So sometimes this deck is really good, but like most of the time this deck is looking like pretty decent at best. Mystic Mind, this deck is gonna be fucking tier 0 if I'm being honest, but it's like a trash tier deck. Like Mystic Mind is not really that good as its own deck. Like Mystic Mind is a broken card. This card should be honestly tier 0. It should be banned. But I don't think a lot of the competitive players are kind of playing this deck. Like if you're playing this deck, you're probably just a memer. You probably just want to like have people not have fun. I just don't know. If you're playing Mystic Mind, you're just a troll, honestly. Dragon Maid, I just think gets outclassed by Dragon Link. Not playing Dragon Link, you're probably just making a mistake. But Dragon Link is not Dragon Link. Dragon Maid is pretty decent, but it just gets outclassed by a lot of these other kind of going first decks. Live Twins, I think Live Twins is not. It's not anything too crazy. So Live Twins, there's not much to say. It's just like a really solid rogue deck that a lot of people are gonna go to. Maybe like Eldlich Live Twins is a deck because the new Live Twin I think is like a zombie. So I'm not too sure, but this deck is not gonna be doing much in the form. Mutants is trash tier. This deck has done nothing outside of the few people testing this deck after the deck was released. The deck is not that good, honestly. PKs, I think PKs is gonna be tier maybe 3. With a lot of these going second cards coming back in the format, like Dark Rule No More, Droplets, Talents, if you can count that, Super Poly, like Kaijus. A lot of people are going to be playing these going second cards, so I'd put this maybe in the rogue category, but I think that their boards are pretty decent. You still have Fog Blade if they out your board, multiple Fog Blades if that, to kind of stop your opponent if they out your board. And you also have hand traps, because this deck only needs like 2 cards to play pretty much. Sometimes maybe you need like 3 if you have a really like terrible hand, but this deck is still really solid. Unchained is like it's decent. Shout out to my coder subs out there. It's a decent deck. It's a very solid control deck, but I don't think it has that good of a matchup against something like Dragon Link that much. You definitely not beating Dinosaurs. I don't think they have a good matchup against Dinosaurs. And Eldlich is just like a very terrible matchup, if I'm being honest. Also, Zeus is just like super powerful as well. Pendulum is still trash tier. Triff is not even playing this deck, so who cares? Mermail, I think is rogue deck. I know it's biased. I know it's biased of me to put this deck in rogue, but I think it's still really solid. All of these 3 can go in the rogue tier, honestly. I think all of these 3 they're gonna see representation in the format like a little bit, but they're not gonna be too crazy in the format. Like Mermail still has everything. They still have Pago Frybrax and stuff like that. Salamangreats still have everything in there. They still have everything. They have Wolf. They have, I guess, one Gazelle. It's not too bad. You still have like Silent Mining and stuff to search it. Circle as well. And then Paleo. I don't know how good trap decks are going to be in this format. It depends on how good the going first decks are, but yeah, Paleo is going to be very, very solid. So that is my format prediction. Let me know in the comment section below what you think is going to be very good in the format. As I said before, Dragon Link is going to be the best deck, and then the counters to Dragon Link is going to be the following best decks. Eldlich is also going to be the best deck because this deck is just a very, very good control deck, and having floodgates in your deck to beat like stuff like Dragon Link. It has a really good matchup against Dinosaurs as well. Zoodiac is really good going second against something like Dragon Link as well. Like these going second decks against like Dragon Link is going to be very good. And then you have your like really good other combo decks like Infernoble. You have, I guess, somewhat Shaddolls is like somewhat of a combo / control deck. And then you have your ultimate counter, which is the Dragon Buster a lot combo deck. And then the other tier 3 decks are like more like weaker control decks / like combo decks that are just like gonna see a fall in the format at some point. Like a lot of people are gonna be playing these decks. Like Virtual World, I can see a lot of people testing this post VFD ban. A lot of people playing Guru and Ultra guys because like these are the go-to control deck. Adamantipator is going to see a rise because people are going to be looking for the next best combo deck, which I think is just going to be Dragon Link. People are going to be testing Infernobles, which is still really solid. BA is going to see its way in the format as well. Zephyr is going to see its way in the format as well. I think the representation of Invoke Dogmatica is going to be a little bit higher than a lot of these other tier 3 decks, but I feel like its power is going to be tier 3. PK is it's just a tier 3 deck. It's just like Adamantipator's kind of somewhat in the fact that they both kind of lose the Dark World and more. I think PK is a little bit stronger somewhat because they still have the Warrior engine that they can play in their deck. They still have Fogblade if they do get Dark World no more. And like Adamantipator don't really have that. I guess you could play like the Prankid's Fusion engine in this deck, but it makes the deck a lot more brickier. Drytron is going to see a big fall. ABC is going to be seeing I think it's going to be trashed here after this, but I could be proven wrong. So that's why I'm putting it in here. And there's not anything else to say. Like Dragon Link is like, these are just going to be the best deck. Dragon Link, Eldlich, you know, Dinosaur, Zoodiac, like these decks are just, they were really solid, like, except like Dinosaurs. Dinosaurs wasn't that really good, but that was just because Chuking all calamities, and Zex will stop his deck. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I rambled on long enough. Let me know what you guys think about the format, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.